Is it safe to eat that much food, Dr. Hibbert?
You know, I wouldn't have thought so before I bought 12% of this restaurant, but now I feel a balanced diet can include the occasional eating contest.
But what if he chokes?
Not to worry. We have the latest Heimlich machine.
On your left, the pride of the American trucking industry, reliable Red Barkley. And on your right, Homer somebody.
Go! Yeah! Go!
Gluttons to your marks. And gorge.
No, Homer, don't fill up on bread!
Huh? Oh, right, the steak!
Come on, Dad. Pick up the pace. Chew and swallow. No savoring.
Must eat beef. Must defeat guy I just met. So much steak. Lungs filling. Sinuses packed with meat.
Come on, Dad. Just 12 more pounds.
Oh, humans are so ridiculous. He's not even halfway through Walter, and he's already hallucinating.
Lousy drunks. I'll show them! What's happening to me? There's still food, but I don't want to eat it. I've become everything I've ever hated.
Hi everyone, welcome back for another video. We're beginning today a series on training and nutrition basic principles. We're going to do a couple of videos on the basics, again, in both nutrition and training, and then intermediate videos on the same. So it's going to be at least a series of 4, possibly 5. I might do one on supplementation if there is enough request for it. So let's get started. Beginning with, I want to tell you a story about when I was working for a gym when I lived in Iowa and had this older couple come in and request personal training services. Again, keeping in mind that they came to me. I don't hunt people out or down to give them or offer them services. They come to me. I've just always done it that way. I've never needed to. I always get people coming to me on their own or referred from others. Anyways, in this case, the older couple, again, I think in their late 50s to early 60s. So when I did the initial consultation with them, the woman, who was rather hugely obese, said she just wanted more than anything else to be able to get down on the ground and play with her grandbabies and be able to get back up without a problem, which I think is a very reasonable and respectable goal, and that's what we talked about, of course. For the gentleman, he had already had heart bypass surgery, had already been told by his doctors of his own volition. He gave me all this information. So he had already been told by his doctors that if he did not change his dietary and exercise habits, that he would most likely be dead within the year. So they came to me again, as I said, and although the woman was rather receptive and into actually doing something, the gentleman, not so much so. And so when I began asking about their current habits, both, particularly when it comes to nutrition, which is what our focus is going to be in this particular video, by the way, if it wasn't clear from the title. So he proceeds to tell me that he goes out 2 or 3 nights a week with his friends and goes bowling, because that's apparently his thing, and there's nothing else in Iowa to do anyway. So, it's either bowling or pig farming. Those are your two choices. So anyways, he chose to bowl, but he proceeds to tell me also that when he goes bowling, he drinks at least a 6-pack to a 12-pack of beer and eats 3 to 4 hot dogs with everything on them, no doubt. Now, just so you have a complete picture, this guy is rather small stature, but obvious attitude of former military. Now, that's not to bag on anybody in the military. I know lots of people that don't have this, but there are certain people that go through that end up just with a very, especially when they're older, a very stubborn attitude that is not exactly progressive in its thinking or willing to change or do anything different. So as I typically do with most new people coming into a new training, exercise, or nutrition program, I offer very reasonable compromises. There's never anything that we do that is, an extreme 180 from whatever the person is doing now. Small changes make big differences is one of my mottos that I've used for many, many years. So just very reasonably and trying to compromise with the gentleman. How about if we just try to cut that in half? So instead of a 6-pack of beer and 3 hot dogs, how about, 3 beers and 1 hot dog? And he just adamantly refused to even consider the idea. And again, I'll reiterate, he came to me for help. So, it's very, very sad when somebody is so set in their ways and unable and or unwilling to do what they need to do, even under the threat of literal death. It's absolutely insane, if you ask me. So I don't know what happened to the gentleman. That was the first and only and last time I ever saw them. I don't even know if they continued their membership at that particular gym or any other. Judging by his reaction and refusal, I suspect that, they probably went for that one day and decided that wasn't for them. And that's okay, training and nutrition stuff, healthy eating, although should be to a reasonable degree for everybody. Some people just want nothing to do with it, and that's okay too. But when you come to me for help, I'm going to not be easy on you as far as what I expect from people. If you don't have the same expectations from yourself, then you're just not going to get anywhere, and therefore you're wasting my time. Even with what I tend to charge for personal training services on a normal basis, it's still wasting my time if you're not into it. It doesn't matter how much you pay me, honestly. So speaking of paying, you guys get all of this wonderful, valuable information at no charge. So how about just a like, a comment, and a subscription, and that's what you can do to pay me. Again, you don't want to miss the next videos anyways, because this information is going to continue, and we'll have lots more great content coming your way in the very near future. So the next video will be on basic training principles. All of these basic videos that we're doing are intended for everybody. So regardless of your age, regardless of your training experience, whether or not you're even into exercise, fitness, and nutrition, there'll be a lot of stuff in here that can help just the average normal person that maybe doesn't want to have a heart attack by the time they're 35 and go through heart bypass surgery and have your doctor tell you that you're going to die in a year. So let's try to avoid that for as many people as we can. Because if you watched my video on the illusion of control, we're not talking about saving lives here, because when it's your time to go, you're going to go. But the time that we have here, the idea is that we want to make that as valuable as possible. We want to enjoy it as much as we can. And we certainly don't want to live it, being in all of the various states of physical conditions that will make life very miserable and unpleasant and unhappy. So before we get into the fun of what we're talking about today, another quick story about somebody that I knew just over the past couple of years, who their significant other was already in a great deal of misery, had already had diabetes, already was disabled, confined to a wheelchair, needed, obviously, pretty much round-the-clock care. When you're in that position, obviously you can't do a whole lot of normal, everyday things for yourself that we take for granted. So, without even discussing it directly with either of those people in that couple, because I didn't find out till after the fact, and they weren't consulting me for that purpose anyways, so it's just an acquaintance. However, I don't need to have talked to them directly about that to know that when you're in that position and you are disabled, confined to a wheelchair, and you are diabetic, no doubt when any of those things occur, and I believe the gentleman already had heart problems as well. So in all of those things, if any of you have ever been to a doctor for anything related to your health, aging, anything like that, the doctor will, of course, tell you what to do as far as your exercise and general nutritional health is concerned, in hopes of, again, keeping you from going into even further, deeper, and more difficult health situations. Clearly, that advice was ignored entirely from, again, just by talking to the person and knowing something of their eating habits and all that. So, very sadly, the gentleman ended up having a stroke, and again, now is in even greater misery, and now literally needs constant 24/7 care, cannot do anything for themselves. And I don't personally want it to see anybody going through that, even if you're somebody I don't like or want anything to do with you. That is a horrible way to live. And although, again, we can't predict or control what will happen, there are lots of things that we can do to minimize the risk of things like heart attack and strokes and diabetes, for type 2 diabetes anyways. So all of these things can be avoided through just reasonable amounts of exercise and watching your nutrition. So that's why we're doing this. So stay tuned. Again, we're getting started and I hope it helps. So these are going to be the 10 most important, most basic ideas when it comes to nutrition for both health and performance. And when I talk about performance, I'm not talking about necessarily athletic performance. You do not need to be a 250-pound bodybuilder. However, if you are, it's that much more important. Trust me, I've been doing this over 30 years. So literally what you put into your body when it comes to fuel, food, makes all the difference. However, Like I said, that doesn't need to apply to you at all. Even if you are just a normal person and you would like to simply feel better and have more energy throughout the day and not get halfway through your workday and feel like you got ran over by a truck, that's what we're talking about when it comes to performance. Just your overall sense of well-being and energy. But again, if you are into exercise and training and fitness, then this is that much more vitally important, of course. So, like I said, the point is this information will help everybody and it's intended specifically for that purpose. So, number one, first and foremost, the most important thing when it comes to nutrition, hydration. Okay? Making sure that you have adequate water intake. Not adequate coffee intake, not adequate beer intake. Those things are important too, but they do not replace plain water. So, I recommend getting a large refillable container that has the numbers on it. The one that I use is from Animal. It is half a gallon and it's got the ounces listed on the side as well as I think the metric version thereof. But it makes it very, very easy to pay attention to and know exactly how much water you're getting throughout the day. For me, I drink so I drink about a gallon of water a day. And it is important on more levels than most people know, understand, and realized. Real quickly, going back to the idea of getting something like this, number one is that when you get almost to the end of your day or halfway through your day and you see, this is already my second one of these, by the way. When you see that you've only drank a third of this, that should kind of give you an indication, I need to step it up and get more fluid intake. But it's also, again, it's easy to track. It's easier to fill. It's a lot cheaper than buying water bottles all the time. This is sturdy. I've had this particular one that I've had this over a year and it's still in perfect condition, like it's brand new. I bought this particular one. It also has, and I'm not affiliated with this company. I'm not trying to sell this. I'm just giving you an idea and happens to be why I like it. Because it also has an extra wide mouth. So that makes it easier to clean and easier to fill. So again, it's Animal. Go to, I think it's just animal.com, and pick one up. They're like $20. Very well worth the investment. So enough of the sales pitch for somebody that I don't even fucking work for. The reason water is so important. Number one, it of course dictates and regulates just about every primary function of your body, including how your kidneys function. It also helps maintain your electrolyte balance. So and not going deeply into this, because again, this is the basic version of the video, but the combination of water, sodium, magnesium, and potassium, they all work together for your electrolyte balance. And if you have one that is off, then it will throw off everything else and cause you difficulties. Again, when it comes to health and performance. So not drinking enough water actually causes you to retain sodium. Okay? So sodium retention will cause you to have less potassium and magnesium. Again, they all want to stay in balance and in the right ratio. Less potassium and magnesium, when you get cramps, that's what's causing it. Okay? Also with the water, it's really, really, really important to understand that dehydration sets in long before you feel the sensation of thirst. So I see people all the time in the gym, on the street, and it amazes me in the gym. When I train, I take sips of water between every single set that I do. And I see people going in and training for an hour, hour and a half. Granted, they're not doing what I do, but they're still in there. And for the people that are working and actually building up a sweat, and half of them, more than half, I never see take a sip of water. There is simply no way when you're losing that much through exercise and hopefully the sweat that it's producing that you are not going to lose something and you need to replace it and you want to replace it as soon as possible. Fair warning, if you start a proper hydration regimen, you are going to go through an adjustment period where it seems like you're peeing every half hour, because you are peeing every half hour. Your body will adjust and acclimate and get used to it. And the great thing about being fully hydrated, especially for you ladies, and when it comes to that time of the month and you are retaining water. By the way, men retain water too, for those of you that are confused about biology. So this is, again, helpful for everybody. But when you are properly hydrated, the more water you drink, the less water you retain. Therefore, particularly when it comes to that time of the month for you ladies, you will retain less water, you will be less bloated. It will therefore mess with your hormones less and cause you less, as I mentioned already, cramping and other problems. Not to say that it won't happen, you'll get it, but it will not be as severe. Think of it as COVID vaccination for your kidneys. That sounded really weird, but anyways, you hopefully get the idea, and it does work something like that. It will not prevent it 100%, but it will keep you from the more severe problems associated with it. So, moving on to one of my favorite bullshit scams that has been scamming people since since before I was born, and long before, of course, I ever even lifted a weight or thought about nutrition on any level of health and performance, is the food pyramid that has been lying to us, I think, since the 50s it came out, if I'm not mistaken. Not that it matters. But that's a long time to be bullshitting people, and for people to still believe it is the problem. So, part of how you know that it is bullshit is because it routinely and consistently changes. Although our knowledge of base nutrition really has not changed substantially in the last 50 years, I'll tell you. Also, along that note, please know and understand that for all of us who are in the health and fitness industry, whether it is you are a whatever form of athlete, you are a dietitian, doctors don't count. They are not in health and fitness per se, not as far as we're talking about it. They're in the health care field. That's different. So you have to understand, for a doctor to give you advice on health and nutrition, as a medical doctor, to give you advice on health and nutrition in the US, for universities to become a medical doctor and licensed, that less than 20 hours of course time is involved in health and nutrition classes, which means they know less than I knew in my first 3 months of training. So they're in no position, although they try to pretend to be, to give you advice. They also legally cannot give you a written out diet plan. Neither can I. It's illegal for anybody but a registered dietitian to do that. Certainly in the state of California, and many states have similar laws. So anybody trying to do that, they're very likely breaking the law. You should know that. But they are also not qualified. But before I go off on any more of a tangent and a rant on that, my point was actually that for those of us who are in the industry and have the knowledge, there is no debate. Whether you talk to a bodybuilder or you talk to a dietitian about these things, you're essentially going to get the same answers. We've known this stuff for, again, longer than I've been alive, really. I mean, as far as the base information goes, we have learned a lot more things when it comes to, micronutrients and phytochemicals and various things, how they react in your body. And there's a lot more knowledge when it comes to things like insulin sensitivity. We're not getting into that today, perhaps in the next video. But the point being that there is no argument from people that are in the industry and know this stuff. The only argument comes from people who are trying to sell you something and trying to offer you a fad diet to, sell their next bullshit book or whatever. So anyways, I kind of jumped off the rails there a little bit. I apologize, but back to the food pyramid, which again has changed, although our knowledge has not. Not for the basics, not for the basics of healthy eating is what we're talking about when it comes to the food pyramid. Not all of the more detailed, nuanced aspects of it. So when it comes to the food pyramid, on the bottom, typically on the bottom, you have whole grains, bread, cereals, rice. Then goes up and fruits and vegetables, and then meats and dairy, and then fats and sweets at the top. The thing should almost be fucking flipped over. It's actually become a lot more common knowledge of that nowadays, so I'm sure for a lot of viewers, I'm not telling you anything entirely new. But the fact is that we're going to get into talking about carbs shortly, but eating carbs it's not that carbs are bad, but eating carbs as the overall majority basis of your diet is just plain fucking idiotic, and that's why people are so fat. Part of the problem with the pyramid is that it's often based, this is what most people are not necessarily privy to when it comes to this stuff. The food pyramid is based, it's given to you by the government, so that's number one, but a lot of people don't know and understand that the government, of course, subsidizes farming of all different types. The government pays for, in other words, a whole lot of this farming industry and purchases many of these items. So such as corn farmers is one of the biggest ones. Now, this is not anything against corn and the idiots that think it's something wrong with corn itself. Corn is great. Eat corn. Enjoy corn. Okay, don't eat fucking creamed corn. But otherwise, eat corn. It's good for you. Wherever this idea came from that it's bad for you is based on what I'm about to tell you, which is why everything has high fructose corn syrup in it is because of the government subsidizing corn farmers, because corn is much cheaper and easier to produce. It lasts longer than pure sugar cane. So therefore it's cheaper and easier to use. So that's why it's put in everything. So the government, who controls industry, who controls the FDA, who controls all of these things, again, they subsidize those farmers to produce more and more. So they will pay somebody to produce corn, in other words, as opposed to having them produce pigs or wheat or whatever the hell else it is they might want to grow, because that is big business for them. So we end up with these giant surpluses because so much is overproduced. So we end up with these huge surpluses that now the government says, okay, we need to get rid of this. So what do? Well, we tell people, oh, hey, eat more of this now. For anybody that's old enough, for example, over the years, I've watched it change at least 4 or 5 times in my lifetime that I recall. Over the years, they've gone back and forth of whether or not you're supposed to eat eggs and whether or not they're good or bad for you based on the cholesterol. And so one year you'll see, oh my God, don't eat eggs, they're full of cholesterol and they'll kill you and blah, 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 blah. And again, more government subsidized commercials, mind you. Don't lose track of that. And then a year or 2 later, oh, hey, eggs aren't as bad as we thought. Eat more eggs. But again, if you talk to a nutritionist, they will tell you, no, none of that shit has ever changed. We've known all along, and it's government manipulation. So don't buy into it. Don't buy into the food pyramid or anything else that the government tells you when it comes to what you should or shouldn't eat. Because just look at the people in Congress who make the laws and make this shit up. Do any of them look like they're in shape and should be giving you nutrition advice? I would tend to think not. I think most of them look like they've already died, if you ask me. But I won't be taking my advice from them. You can if you want. So, number 3. And again, this is one that everybody has heard repeatedly. It's been shoved down your throat. However, this is one that is actually based in reality and very true, so pay attention. Avoid processed foods. Stick primarily to clean, single source whole foods, and you will just be much better off. I have often said throughout the years, the closer that you get to nature with what you eat, the better off you're going to be. So now that, of course, does not mean only eat vegetables. That's another retarded thing that we'll talk about later. But the point being that steak and a hamburger comes from natural source too. So do eggs, so do fish, all that stuff, depending on your food preferences. But when it comes to meat, for instance, yes, that is still natural. So I'm not, again, saying avoid meat. What I'm saying is it is far better to have an orange instead of a glass of orange juice. It is far better to, if you are going, now I don't expect everybody to be a master chef and a baker, but just for example, you would be much better off to bake your own bread from fresh ingredients than whatever they're fucking putting into the shit you buy at the store. There's a lot better choices now, fortunately, because there's a lot more health consciousness, but still, most of them tend to come with a lot of extra stuff that you don't necessarily want or need. And the stuff that is really good happens to be expensive, of course, because it's made with good ingredients. But more importantly than that, I'm not saying don't eat bread. I'm not saying don't eat carbs. There's nothing wrong with those things when done the right way, which is what we're here to talk about. I'm saying avoid primarily things like chips and hot dogs and, things that come, pre-made in a package, whatever they are. When you go down any supermarket aisle and there's the frozen entree thing of shit that you just microwave, that's the kind of things we're talking about. Even the stuff that's listed as healthy, I think there's even a brand called Healthy Choice. There's nothing fucking healthy about it. Now, it's better than not eating at all, but if you have the option, you are much better off, instead of getting Healthy Choice chicken and rice, buy some chicken and buy some rice and cook it yourself. Don't be lazy. Okay? I work over 70 hours a week, and that doesn't even include training or the YouTube channel. And if I'm able to do that in my late 40s and still I'm able to cook and eat decent food and I'm still able to get in time to train, I really don't accept excuses. You just have to make it a priority. So, other processed foods, of course, cookies and candy and all that stuff. Again, if it comes in a package ready to eat, it's best to try another choice. So, number 4 is perhaps my favorite subject when it comes to this, which is nonsense behind Gimmick and Fat Diets, which have, of course, been around longer than I have. So there is everything from keto to Atkins, which are similar but not the same, contrary to what most people think. Oh my God, there's so many diets. I'm going to focus just for a minute on one particular one, just to give you an idea overall, because I don't think we need 40,000 examples of this. Anything that's touted as, oh, you can lose this much weight in this many days is a gimmick, is the bottom line. Because that's not how it works. That's not how the body works. That's not how nutrition works. So there is a place to use more drastic, short-term measures for very specific results, but that comes later, much later on, when you are much more advanced and working towards a very specific goal. But the problem is that none of those are, meant for long-term. So anyways, going back to the one that I will focus on that I ran into a few years ago. And I've tried all of these throughout the years, by the way, in case you're wondering. If there is a diet or training program out there, with the exception of the nonsense that is, just drink liquids for the whole weekend and nothing else. I've never done any of that because that is so amazingly retarded. Because all you're losing is muscle and water. You're not actually losing any of what you want to lose, which is the body fat. By the way, in this, I never discuss losing weight, you'll notice. Any asshole can lose weight just by drinking fluids all weekend. But when you're losing weight, as I've already said, you are losing water and muscle. You are not losing fat. So what I always discuss and only discuss and focus on is losing fat. We want to make positive changes to our body composition. And again, no matter who you are. So in order to do that requires much more specific attention to what you're doing, and no fad gimmick diet will work for that. So anyways, back to this diet that I came across a couple of years ago. So I forget the name of it, excuse me, and I'm a poor researcher today. I did not look it up. Was partially because I was being a poor researcher today, but partially because I don't want to promote this fucking asshole. Actually, I hate this person so much that he's the reason that I pay for YouTube premium membership every month, because every time I'd be doing my cardio in the morning and listening to YouTube while I'm doing so, listening, not watching, by the way, he would pop up with a 20-minute infomercial trying to sell me his bullshit. And I got so sick of him raping my ears with his nonsense that I paid for premium, and I still do every month. And oh my God, it's worth it. So anyways, this guy's diet was based on the idea that there are something called anti-proteins We're not going to go into more specifics about that, but there are plenty of foods, particularly those in the nightshade family of vegetables, which include things like eggplants and bell peppers. I believe potatoes, peanuts were on the list. There's a number of different ones. And no, I'm not saying peanuts are nightshade. Don't get confused, please. The bell peppers and eggplants are part of the nightshade family, not the peanuts. Anyways, so I looked into the details of what he was claiming as far as the anti-protein component of these foods, and it was actually something I didn't know before, so I was happy to learn that, of course. And the science behind what the guy was talking about actually seemed to make a great deal of sense. So I gave the diet about a 2-month run where I stopped eating so many of the things that I love, because I fucking love bell peppers. I love peanuts. So those were among the things that I gave up. And as all of them, he comes across with all of these bullshit claims. I ignored those because, again, I was focused on the research and the actuality of the science behind what he was talking about. Which, like I said, seemed to make sense. So it seemed like it was worth giving it a shot. And absolutely no change. Big surprise. So after 2 months of giving it an honest run, I dropped it and went back to peanuts and eating those other foods because it made literally zero difference. Now, it's partially important to understand that there are so often, especially probably more than any other industry that I'm aware of, it is so often, it's always been the case since I started when I was 17 years old, when I started training and really reading about and learning all this stuff. So it's always been the case where people will take what I always term as half science and half truths, and they pick one little thing out, such as that individual did, and tout that as being the magic, whatever it's supposed to be, to get you the results that you want. And of course, it's just never true, because the body is far more complicated than that. So one little aspect, so again, back to our example in this case, one little aspect of that idea, again, being anti-proteins. Well, we don't want anti-proteins because of what they do. They stop the proteins that you ingest from being properly absorbed by your body. So the idea, of course, being that with reducing and or eliminating those anti-proteins, the protein that you are consuming will be much more bioavailable and therefore able to have your body use it efficiently and properly. The problem is they work at such a minuscule low level that, again, the difference is completely insignificant. So they take that one little thing, again, which is scientifically true, but it's not statistically relevant. And this is so often the case when it comes to all of these diets. So that, the smart ones do that. The smart ones find something that is scientifically literate and then add it into their program and try to make it out and present it like it's something new. But again, the body just doesn't work that way. It's much, much more complex than I can make 10 videos probably and still not be able to give you all of the complete complexity of it. It's amazing, and it goes on forever, seemingly. I'm still learning even after more than 30 years. So bottom line is, all of the diets that promise quick results are bullshit 100% of the time. I could go on forever and ever about this. One of the biggest things that I hate, this doctor dude included, he starts off all of his videos with talking about, of course, how great of a doctor he is. And my favorite part of it, is that he talks always first thing about how he was eating a healthy vegetarian diet and still unable to lose weight. Well, I'm sorry, people, and I'm sorry to the hippies, but there's no such thing as a healthy vegetarian diet. Period. It doesn't exist, because you cannot get complete proteins with eating vegetarian, and the complete amino acid profile simply does not exist in vegetarian choices. That's just biological reality. There's no scientific argument for that. I'm sorry. It's only a marketing argument, nothing more. Secondarily, you cannot have cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, without animal sources in your diet, and we require cholesterol. We're going to talk more about the necessity of cholesterol and detail in the next video. So again, make sure you catch that one. But here and now, suffice it to say, please, that it is absolutely required. Okay? So don't fall for any of it. You know, again, there is no quick fix. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk more about carbs. Because for many years now, everybody's heard it. You've heard it. I've heard it. My cats have heard it. It's impossible to escape how carbs are evil and carbs are making you fat. And that is the problem, and that's why you can't stop losing weight, so go on keto diets. And then guess what happens? People go on keto diets, and they feel like shit for however long they can last, and then they go off of it, and then they have the same problem as every other fad bullshit diet. So, again, perhaps I'll talk in more detail about what's everything wrong with keto diets, but again, it is yet just another gimmick. Carbs are not a problem. Carbs are not evil. Carbs are not making you fat. It is overeating and under-exercising that is making you fat if you're fat. You cannot blame it on carbs. If you switch and eat a keto diet and take out all the carbs, but you still eat too much, you're still going to get fat. That's the way the body works. Again, you want to avoid processed, not only foods, but especially processed carbs. You hear about these diets. Oh yeah, I just threw everything away white. So I don't know why we need to be racist about it. But yeah, everything white in my kitchen had to go. And that was my magic cure for, well, no. The fact is that you were just eating way too much. So, you know, part of it comes down to just paying attention and having a bit of discipline and self-control. But you can absolutely eat carbs, which I eat a rather large abundance of healthy, complex carbs on a daily basis when I am not, even when I'm restricting calories to lose greater fat, I am still eating probably in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 grams of carbs a day. Okay? It's not the carbs. It is, again, you want to avoid processed simple sugars. So things like soda, things like fruit juice, basically any candy. Which again should be obvious, but when we talk about the carbs that are causing you problems, it's that stuff. And of course, those treats are what we tend to eat more of course, because they're yummy. You know, I like that stuff too once in a while. But the problem is being able to control yourself, have enough discipline to not eat the whole fucking bag of cookies. That's your problem. You know, so you can't blame it, oh, the carbs are killing me. It's you are doing that because you don't want to exert some self-control. And if you're refusing to do that, that's fine too. Again, I never get on people. If you're just not interested in doing that, then that's up to you. It's your life and enjoy. That's all good. And I'll never even give you shit about that until you start going around talking about how I need to do this and I can't do this and all of that, because that's a bunch of bullshit. You're simply making a choice. So when it comes to, again, carbs, simply understand the difference between complex carbs and simple carbs. So complex carbs, potatoes, rice, whole grains, of course. Again, good breads can be absolutely included in that. There are, of course, sweet potato. There's so many different great sources of good complex carbs. Oatmeal, of course, as well. That it's very, very easy to pick something out and make it the scapegoat instead of taking responsibility for yourself. So again, avoid the simple sugars and don't overeat. It's really that simple, So that brings us to a very great misunderstanding, because this is something that is universal, okay? Again, it doesn't matter your fitness level or your health level or your age, or if you never have or never plan on picking up a weight or anything like that. Universally speaking, though, to be able to lose, you must consume less calories than you burn, period. Doesn't matter who you are. This is assuming that you are not on performance-enhancing drugs. That's a slightly different story, but it still applies if you want to do it efficiently and effectively. If you want to maintain your weight, then there is something called the BMR, the basal metabolic rate, which that's going to be a topic, one of the things that we discuss in greater detail in the next video on nutrition. But you need to be able to figure out what that is for yourself, and you need to keep your calories within that range to maintain, not get any smaller or bigger. And then if you're wanting to get bigger, if you're wanting to add muscle, it is an absolute requirement for you to consume more calories than you are burning each day. And you have to do it consistently. It is the only way. I went from, when I started training, I was about 175 pounds of scrawny flab. And this morning I weighed in at 247, and I'm probably 10 to 12% body fat right now. Although I haven't measured that directly for a little while, but just knowing my body. So that is one hell of an extreme difference, granted, over a great many years. But the only way that I could do that is by consistently, year after year, going through stages of bulking where I am eating a tremendous amount of calories that my body requires to put on the kind of muscle that I wanted to put on. There's no other way to do it. For you to lose fat, not muscle and water, for you to lose fat, it requires a very specific type of training and nutritional program that is for each individual, but it absolutely, again, requires that you consume less than you burn, period. Okay? So, moving on, the most important, perhaps, other than hydration, but the most important thing when it comes to being able to achieve results and keep them is sustainability. So I never, when I am discussing nutrition, whether it's with you guys now or whether I am working with a client one-on-one, I am never recommending any type of crash diet where they go down to extreme low calories or anything like that in order. I am always advocating, I always have been an advocate of creating habits and lifestyle choices that you will be able to carry on and maintain consistently. So it needs to be sustainable, because anything that you do that is short term, then just revert back to your old habits, is going to be completely detrimental to your results and to your success. And it's going to cause things like depression. It's one of the biggest problems with the obesity epidemic, is the fact that people go through these cycles of hoping that whatever bullshit diet will work. They go on it. It doesn't work because it's not sustainable. And once they are unable to maintain it, they go back off of it, gain even more weight, become more depressed because now they feel like a fucking loser, and go right back into their old habits with even more vigor and resolve. Well, now, fuck it, I might as well even get fatter. And that's something that I think all of us know and understand, and we can appreciate that attitude, whatever it is in our lives, you know? So there's many other ways that kind of thing manifests itself, but for those people that have the eating disorders and are obese, it happens to be that their addiction becomes food. But it's no different than the addiction with drugs. You know, they do it for the same reason, they just have a different manifestation. So again, we need to develop choices and habits that we can sustain over long term, which means that you are not going to see extreme, for the most part, unless you're just starting out. When you're just starting out, you can see some pretty rapid, amazing results right off the hand. You know, I've had clients where within the first month, you know, they can lose, 20 plus pounds of actual fat, but that's going from doing nothing to going into a proper eating and training regimen. And their body is just so starved for the proper way of doing things that it just responds very quickly. But again, that's not something, those kind of results won't be maintained forever. It doesn't continue that way. So, but aside from that, the real results happen much slower over time. And that's okay. And that's what we want, because what we should always be doing is looking to create a better, as long as we are consistently creating a better version of ourselves. Again, you don't have to be a fucking supermodel, skinny twig, whatever other people tell you that beautiful is absolute bullshit. You be the best, most beautiful you that you can be is all that matters. Don't compare yourself to others, please. Do not look at whatever fucking Angelina Jolie or whatever. Yes, she's beautiful and attractive and all of that, but you are not her. You're not gonna be her. So don't set yourself up for a standard that you can never achieve. Just base your results on you, on what you can create, what you have done, what you can do based on yourself. Where was I a month ago? Where was I 6 months ago? Where was I a year ago? And as long as you can look back and keep seeing the results and the progression, then you're fucking doing great. And that makes you beautiful. Not because you're trying to look like somebody else, because who the fuck wants to look like somebody else? Look like yourself. Look like yourself. That's what's beautiful. Being unique, being you. And even if that you has a few extra pounds, or you're a little bit too skinny, or your butt isn't big enough, or whatever it is, those are all things that you can work on. But again, it takes time. Okay. So like I said, the number one overall thing to make it work consistently, so you don't have health and psychological problems from bullshit diets, is making sustainable life choices that you can still enjoy food. I say it all the time. I'm the biggest advocate of having balance in your life. So that means balance in your diet too. So if I decide that I want to stay at home tonight, get a pizza, and drink a 6-pack of beer, that's precisely what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to feel an ounce of guilt about it. But that's not something that I do frequently. That's not something I do even regularly. That's something I do once every 6 months or something, maybe. Maybe every 4 months if it's, I'm really busy and I just get lazy and don't feel like cooking that night or something. But that kind of thing is okay. It's when you do that, and that's your norm. You do that a couple of times a week, and you make a habit of that. That's what's going to cause you problems and keep you from reaching your goals. So, again, please do those things. Go out with your friends, have dinner, have a piece of cake, birthday cake when it's your birthday or your friend's birthday or whatever. Nothing wrong with that. I don't even like cake, and I do that because I want to share that time with my loved ones, and I want to have that experience with them. So that's far more important. But it's the overall consistency of our general eating practices. So the idea is, now there's a few ways that you hear about this. So I often hear a lot of pro bodybuilders talk about an 80% 20% ratio. Meaning that 80% of the time their eating is awesome and on track and then 20%, if they're not preparing for a contest, then 20% of the time they can be a bit looser and have some fun and enjoy themselves and not worry too much about being perfect all the time. I tend to gravitate myself towards more of an 85-15% ratio. But I still think that 80-20 is okay. So whichever way you want to do it. But again, what that means is that 80 to 85% of the time, you are on track and you are eating a balanced, healthy diet. And then the other 15-20%, you can go out once a week or whatever, go out with your husband or your wife or your kids or whatever it is you got going on. And enjoy yourself. You have to enjoy life. Otherwise, there's no fucking point busting your ass and working so hard and doing all of that if you're not going to take time to enjoy it. So it's true of our health and fitness goals. It's true of our money. It's true of everything in life. So feel free to, if you are disciplined and doing well and you are maintaining a healthy diet, meaning that it is balanced, meaning that you are daily consuming enough protein, you are getting your fruits and vegetables and your vitamin, you're getting enough fiber. And again, in our next video on nutrition, we're going to talk about all of those things in more detail. And in other words, you're giving your body everything it needs in terms of dietary fuel. Okay. And it is primarily from healthy, whole, single source foods, not processed garbage. Then that 15 to 20% of the time on the side from that, assuming, again, you are not preparing for a contest of some sort or anything like that, then I think a greater strictness is required when you have a more specific goal, but that's a separate issue. But again, we're talking about general health and performance, and you will feel better if you're doing this type of eating, I promise. You will feel so much better. Just in general, just your energy levels, just how you feel throughout the day. You will have less brain fog when you're on a healthy eating program. You will have less fatigue. You will just feel better in general because it will help regulate your hormones. It goes into extremely great detail that I could go into. I'm not sure if people want to see. I've been debating after the next video whether or not to do a more advanced version, which includes, things like the microbiology and hormonal fluctuations and all of that goes into it. So feel free to comment if anybody's interested in hearing about that stuff. Like I said, I'm still not sure because often I talk to people and they just want, they're not necessarily interested in the internal dynamics so much. But we can certainly discuss that if everybody wants. So again, your body's getting everything you need from a nutritional standpoint: carbs, proteins, healthy fats, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Okay. So when you're doing that on a regular, daily, consistent basis, and then you add in the occasional quote-unquote cheat meal, then you are golden. You are perfect. Because personally, I don't even consider a cheat meal if it's part of your program. If you lay out a dietary plan and you say, okay, every Sunday night I'm going to have spaghetti and meatballs because that's my favorite thing on the planet, then that is figured into your nutritional program. That's figured into your calorie counts, and it's not cheating because it's a part of your meal plan. Cheating is when you go off your meal plan, is what cheating is. So when you go by Starbucks and you can't resist because they got that big fucking chocolate chip cookie on the counter or whatever. Okay, I don't go to Starbucks, so I don't know what they actually have on the counter. I'm just kind of guessing. But anyways, and you can't resist that, and you just have to have that cookie because you decide to say, fuck it, I'm not going to be disciplined today. That's cheating. And again, for that very short feeling of pleasure, I promise that the aftermath of what you feel psychologically for letting yourself down will never be worth it. Will never be worth it. A great saying from Mr. Jamie Josta, lead singer of the band Hatebreed. If you don't listen to heavy metal, listen to them anyways. But I found the pain of discipline was much less than the pain of regret. So, and I personally live by that. So, trust me, anybody that's ever done that, you know you feel shitty as hell afterwards, and it's never worth it. So just don't do it. Again, just wait and have that cookie on when you have your spaghetti and meatballs, if that's what you want to do. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't cheat, because again, it's only screwing with yourself and screwing with your own psychology as far as how you deal with all of these things regarding your nutrition, because so much of nutrition is psychological. And how you feel about yourself day to day is completely and directly influenced by that. So, moving on, very important aspect of this is meal timing and meal frequency. Plain and simple, most people do not eat frequently enough. Most people that I talk to who are not already on some sort of proper program for nutrition, most people I talk to maybe eat twice a day. It's not enough. If you're eating twice a day, and again, we're going to go into, I know I keep saying that, I apologize for that, but it's true. We're going to go into the more specifics about how meal timing and frequency affects you. But just in general, it's Important to understand that it completely changes your metabolism when you eat more frequently. It changes how your body processes and deals with foods. It changes how efficiently your body processes and deals with foods and how much you get out of them. And so if you're only eating 2 times a day, I please urge you to double that to 4. 4 should be your absolute minimum. If you can do 5, it's even better. 6 is usually what I do, is what I've done for many, many years. It's what I have all of my personal training clients. It's what I have them shoot for. Again, we make small steps. So again, if you're only eating 1 to 2, bump that up to 3 if you need to. Do that for a month, bump that up to 4. And that's okay. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. And that's perfectly all right. But understand, the more that you can do that, the more it's going to help you on several ways. And part of it you won't even see right away, as far as you can't expect that change to make, immediate results. Or again, some people, like I said, can see very quick results from entering into a training and nutrition program that, because their body is just so craving for it and dying for it. But for the most part, anybody who is not hugely obese, and is in reasonable shape fitness-wise, just as far as being active in all of that, then you're not going to see physically an amazing change to your body within a couple of weeks. That's just, again, not how it works. So please don't ruin yourself with unrealistic expectations. But over the course of time, consistently doing this, it will absolutely change your body and change your hormone levels and how you feel. So again, at least 4 meals a day, evenly spread out. Even if they're small, protein shakes are the best thing ever, because you can just take it with you for those of us that are crazy busy and all of that, and you need to get an extra meal in and you're busy working, have a shake ready to go. You can get them pre-made. You don't even have to mix anything. Just open the bottle and drink it. Takes you 1 minute, literally. I have a number of friends and clients that do precisely that. I prefer to buy powder and mix it myself, but that's me and that's the way I've always done it. So either way, but get the meal in is the point. Protein bars are the same, although you are generally adding more calories and more sugar. But depending on what you have going on, it's still better than not eating at all. Okay. So again, 4 times a day, even spacing. And by the way, try to, I kind of mentioned it earlier, so just a reminder, try to have the meals balanced. So you should have, all of your meals should have some sort of animal protein. So whether it's meat or dairy or eggs or poultry, I still consider poultry meat, but anyways, for those that want to be more anal and specific about it, something fruit or vegetable and some sort of complex carb, and you will be right on track with what you need to be doing as far as as far as having a sustainable dietary plan that you can stick with. Think in those terms and you will be well on your way, I promise. So number 10, I wanted to talk about nutrition labels a little bit, because I'm going to try to make this part quick because I've been rambling on forever. But too many people don't read labels, don't understand labels when they do read them. So if that describes you, it takes time to learn. You have to teach yourself. Again, comment. I can teach you how to read labels. I'd be happy to do a video on that too if people want. But again, right now we're just going to go over the basic idea of it. But the point being that there's no goddamn point in reading it if you don't know what the information means. So when, the best example I can give that I can think of right off the top of my head, because I always do these right off the top of my head with the exception of some notes that I make for myself to not lose specific points, is understand. So let's go back to, let's say you can't resist the box of cookies when you go to the store because you made the mistake of going shopping while you were hungry. Bad idea. Don't do it. But you try to be good, and so you buy the box of, 30% less calories fucking cookies instead. By the way, notice half the time on the box of cookies, it will say no cholesterol as a selling, again, it's a marketing gimmick. Of course it doesn't have cholesterol because cholesterol only comes from animal products. So unless they are, and animal crackers don't count, by the way, unless they are meat cookies, there's no fucking way they're going to have goddamn cholesterol to begin with. So be wary of that, please. Again, but most people I talk to still don't know that. And that's okay. That's why I'm here. That's why we're having this discussion and explaining all this. But that's exactly what I mean by understanding what you're looking at. So anyways, you decide to buy the 30% less sugar or less fat or whatever the hell it is brand of cookies, the diet version of the cookies, so you feel better about yourself. And you glance at the label, but you see the basics, which is what they want you to see. So you see that per serving, it has the 30% less fat or sugar or whatever it is trying to market towards you. And okay, great. That all looks good. But what you're not seeing is the trickery. Now, if you pick that up and you look at the original box of the same cookies that are just the original brand or flavor or whatever, without the diet version, and compare the labels, you will quickly see that, number one, the serving size is always smaller. That is number one way that they get that percentage point on there. They didn't actually take anything away for the most part. So just making the serving size smaller, of course, but making the serving size, the listed serving size on the label smaller, doesn't mean you're going to eat less cookies. In fact, we know there's been studies done that if you buy the diet cookies and they say 30% less fat or sugar, you're actually likely to even eat more. So how the fuck does that help you? It doesn't, which is the whole point. They want you to eat more. So again, understand that the labels are bullshitting you, okay? And that they are essentially marketing gimmicks, just like everything else. But if you, again, focus on healthy, full, whole, single source foods, then you don't really have to worry about that so much. Because again, the boneless, skinless chicken breast or even chicken thigh is just meat. It's just protein that you don't even need to read the label really for most people, because again, unless you're a pro athlete bodybuilder that needs to measure your food and be very, very specific, the fact is you just need the fat and the protein and you don't have to worry so much about the rest. But the fact is, I am a realist, and I know all of us, including me, I'm not perfect. There are processed foods in my cupboard too. I just don't eat them every day. Okay? And it's just not a habit for me. And again, I have my 85-15 rule. So again, it's not that I go without. I do just fine. So they are there. But again, understanding what's in them. Same for cereals, for instance. Fruit Loops will say 17 vitamins and minerals. So goddamn what? Because there's so much sugar, it's like taking an insulin shot. So it just doesn't matter when it comes to that stuff. They're trying purposefully to get you to focus on the wrong thing. And please don't. Please be aware. And if you know that information, you can help. And if you are going to buy the cookies, by the way, don't buy the diet version. Whether it's the cookies or the crackers or the cream cheese or the sour cream, buy the regular version, the butter, all of that. Don't buy diet versions of things, with the one exception of 2% milk. If you're a milk drinker, very simple. 2% is the best ratio of everything. But when it comes to cookies and crackers and cakes and all cereals and all of these things, peanut butter, just buy the full fat version. Okay? It is always a healthier choice based on a whole lot of things that we're not going to go into now. But again, don't be fooled by the labels, okay? Because that's all they're there to do. So, a few tips and tricks for you guys, just some general ideas to put in your head that hopefully will help. Number one, I mentioned it earlier, which is just the concept that small changes can make a big difference over time. So something as simple as, if you're a coffee lover, as I am, stopping from putting sugar in your coffee. Switch to sweet and low or whatever. Do not switch to flavored sweetened creamers that are full of sugar, because you're just trading one sugar for the other. But something like that, over time, done consistently, can make dramatic effects. And specifically when it comes to sugar, and I mentioned it before, it's the biggest one. Get rid of the processed sugar. The best thing you can do for your body is to, again, water, number one. Number two, drop the sugars in sodas. Drink diet soda if you have to drink soda. Don't bitch, oh, it doesn't taste the same. Your body will get used to it. Your mouth will get used to it within less than a week, and you'll never want regular soda again. I promise. Been there, done that. After a while, you won't even notice the difference, and if somebody gives you a regular one, you won't even be able to drink it. Just do it for yourself. Make the change. Same with fruit juices. If you're gonna drink fruit juices, primarily for me, I drink them when I make smoothies, but I buy the 50% reduced sugar version, which again, still isn't amazing, but when you put it in with protein and all of that, it really changes the dynamic. But I almost never, unless I'm sick, would drink that by itself. And understand, please, that when you go to indulge and you have a fast food meal somewhere, having a damn diet soda does not cancel out the triple bacon cheeseburger and large fries. Okay? Again, I'm not saying get a full sugar soda instead. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying don't eat the cheeseburger. What I'm saying is, number one, most people don't seem to recognize that you can say no to the fries. I know it's hard. I love French fries too. I know it's hard, but you can say fucking no. You can absolutely say no to the super size. At least get the small. You can say no to the triple fucking deluxe bacon burger. Just get a normal fucking cheeseburger. Get a normal bacon cheeseburger. Okay, fine. But do you really think that you need 2,000 calories in one meal? Even I don't need 2,000 calories in one meal at almost 250 pounds of fucking muscle. So I guarantee that for anybody watching this, you don't need it either. I don't even do that when I'm bulking, generally speaking. So, again, one doesn't replace the other. And similarly, because I had this conversation recently with somebody, eating shit food in general is not canceled out by routine exercise. please understand that the body works much like any other machine. It's just a biological machine. Okay, so no different than your car. Your car, well, let's say my car, because I don't know what you drive. So my car is a 6-cylinder. I can lose 4 of the 6 cylinders. Those pistons could go out, and I could be driving on 2 cylinders, and the thing will run. I can still get to work. It's going to be slow as hell and sluggish as hell, and it's going to feel like shit, but it can still run and it can still make it. Well, that's what you're doing with your nutrition when you eat shit all the time. When you eat garbage food, you get garbage results. So if you want to have high performance, good health from your nutrition, then you need to use high performance nutrition. It's the bottom line. So again, exercising every day does not mean that you can eat whatever you want and dog shit. It's still going to cause you the same health problems. You're still going to have the same performance problems. The body, again, has very specific demands and requirements. And if you're not fulfilling those, you are going to suffer in terms of health and performance, which again is what this is all about. So give your body the fuel it needs, and you will be so much better off, I promise. Again, you will just feel better. You will literally be happier because, as I mentioned before, it will change your hormones and how those react in your body. So it literally can change every aspect and therefore change literally your psychology over time because of the hormonal changes changing your brain chemistry. So another, I was going to get one and I totally forgot last night. I was so tired and busy. But I wanted to show everybody what I was talking about. So chocolate, by the way, is not bad for you. Chocolate is good for you if it's pure chocolate. Okay? The problem with chocolate is the rest of the garbage that they put into it. So you can see I see it like every time I go to Target, particularly just because of where they have them on the display. They have this whole display of awesome chocolate bars that are just like chocolate and sea salt or chocolate and whatever. And they are anywhere between 83 and usually 93% actual chocolate. Excuse me. And particularly when you are over 90%, it is actually good for you. No, it's not as sweet as a goddamn candy bar, regular candy bar, of course. But if you want chocolate and you have a craving, and again, you can develop a taste for that. I like it better. I don't like super sweet stuff personally. So, but try like the 83 or the 85% as a start. See how you like it. They're more expensive because it's pure chocolate. It's actually good for, now again, I'm not saying make a meal out of them, but you can have that routinely and it will actually help you. So you're talking to the one personal trainer that will tell you eat more chocolate. So I mentioned going to, of course, fast food and your triple bacon deluxe cheeseburger dipped in bacon fat, of course, and then deep fried. So when you go to eat, wherever it is, I want you to get used to the idea of making better bad choices. Okay? So again, instead of the double, triple cheeseburger and large fries, how about the regular cheeseburger and small fries? Try to avoid dipping them in ranch if you can. Make small changes like that, again, because they will make a difference over time. Don't fucking go to a fast food place and eat a salad. Seriously. I mean, if you really love their salad, I guess that's okay. But shit, if you're going to go to fast food, fucking have fast food. Do it. Live your life again. But again, you can make choices that are healthy and beneficial and have you still enjoying life without going crazy about it. Just try to exercise a bit of thought and mindfulness and discipline, of course. And again, if you do that over time consistently, you will see a big difference. So another tip that I give everybody is, and this is always true no matter who you are, never eat carbs alone. And that's true of complex carbs too. Do not eat carbs alone. Period. Always eat them with fats and proteins. Enough said. Okay? Along those lines, eat your protein source first. So if you're having a steak and a potato, eat the steak before you eat the potato. Quite simply, number one, when you eat carbs, there's something that happens in your brain. There's a hormone released that actually makes you crave more carbs. So eating the potato first will much likely, not much likely, it will make you crave more and make you hungrier. That's the idea of carbohydrate appetizers, to actually make you eat more. That's a gimmick by restaurants to get you to buy more food and eat more food. Don't fucking fall for it. Don't let the restaurant make you its bitch. You be in control. And again, a little bit of mindfulness goes a long way in this. So again, if you eat your steak first instead of the potato, you are much less likely to have enough room or to be as hungry, because of the protein and fat and fiber in the steak is going to make you fuller faster. You're not as likely to overeat. Simple, isn't it? Such an easy thing. Everybody can start that right now and start seeing a difference. Okay? So, before we finish, one more thing to let you enjoy here. So, I want to make sure everybody is aware of since we're talking about fast food and all of that, the new burger that McDonald's just came out with. It's named after Michael Jackson, so appropriately. So make sure you go out and get it today. It's a 48-year-old piece of meat between two 12-year-old buns. And I hope that makes you never want to eat fast food again. I love that joke. So my friends, thank you for watching. As always, be responsible, think for yourselves, and question everything. And I'll see you in the next video, where we are going to discuss the basic core principles of exercise and fitness. Thank you again.